Alright everyone, welcome back. This is going to be the first operation for the step holder part, the first lathe part for our assembly. So start off by opening up that step file. It's going to be step holder 2020. Alright, so rotate it around, take a look. So we've got the 3 diameters here that give you options for holding it once this becomes part of the assembly. And then this end over here is the threads. So the first operation we'll do are the 3 diameters. And then we'll come back to do the threads in the second operation. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring in our machine. So machine, lathe, default. And if you notice, we're sort of in the wrong orientation. So what we can do, and actually if you're not sure if you're in the right orientation, you can actually try to start setting up your stock. So if you go to your stock, you go to properties, you can see the stock is not in the right orientation, or the part's not in the right orientation. The stock is where it's going to be. So you can X out of there, and we know that that part needs to get aligned properly. So we have a tool for that up in the model prep tab at the top of the screen. So you'll see model prep and then align to Z. Align to Z. So we'll click on that one. And then we want to transform to a plane. It's going to be our top plane. Alright. We typically try to use that for our stock in our beginning. So top plane. Then it's going to ask us for the body to move. So we can click on the solid file. Okay. And then the last thing we want to do is reverse the Z. No. I was hoping that would flip the part around. But that's fine. As long as we get it aligned, we can hit the green check. And now we have it in the right orientation. So we go back to our stock setup, back to properties, activate margins. So our OD is 5/8. That's our stock material. Length is 4 inches. And then we're going to give it a 10/1000ths margin on the right to face off. And now you can see that the stock material is actually, around the part in the proper orientation. So we green check that. And then we can go ahead and add our chuck jaws. So we click on the properties, and then parameters, and then position from stock, grip on max diameter, grip length of 2 inches, and green check. And then green check once again on the machine group properties box. And then we have a nice setup. The last thing that we need to do, actually there's a couple things. We need to rotate this, and let's do that now. So click on the model, and I'm going to want it in this orientation for the second operation, so I'm not going to move this part. I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to go to transform and rotate, and I'm going to make a copy, rotate it at 180 degrees. So copy 180, green check. I'll do a right click, clear colors, and then I'm going to put them on different levels. So go to my levels tab, so let's see, I'm going to do this, click on this one here. This is our second operation, so I'm going to put this on level 2. So if I go to my home tab with the model selected and highlighted yellow, go to my home tab and I click on the change level icon, and then uncheck use active level, and then type in the number 2 in place of the number 1 and hit the enter button. So now that's on level 2, and I can click on the X to make it invisible, or not visible. And then what I want to do is we're going to need to move this into position. So one more time, click on the model, transform, translate, and I want to use a move command this time. And if I don't know the overall length of the part, I can do my vector from and to. So click on that, and I want to make sure that I get the center of this circle at the front, and then I want to make sure that I get to the origin like that. Or if you just want to type in minus 1.625 in the X, that's fine also. So green check, clear colors, right click top, and it looks good. We have a 10 thousandths there to face off the front. We're in the right orientation. We're ready to make some toolpaths. So the first thing we need to do is go to our planes. So remember, for lathe, we need the plus D plus Z plane to have the construction and tool plane active on it, whereas the WCS stays with the top plane. Okay? So first toolpath is going to be facing. So we go to our turning tab to face. This first tool, tool 1, that's going to be our roughing tool. So feed rate, I'm going to go with 5 thousandths, spindle speed of 200, and we're using inches per rev and constant surface speed. And then our max spindle speed, we're just going to go with 2,000. Coolant is on. I can tell by the parentheses with the little asterisk. In our face parameters, we're going to use stock. Finish Z is going to be 0. We're really not going to change anything on this screen except for maybe add some overcut amount. So we'll go with about 30 thousandths of overcut amount. Maybe 35. because I think that's a 30 thousandths radius on that insert, and green check. All right. So for our roughing, we're going to want to create some wireframe geometry. What we want to do is we want to rough this out, and we want to take this 1/2 inch diameter, this final diameter, we want to take it all the way back to the end of the part. So we'll do a wireframe. Turn profile. Select the solid body. And click End Selection. And green check. We don't have to mess with any of these. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a window around this part of the wireframe because I don't need any of that. And I'm going to just press the delete key. And then what I want to do is I want to extend this line back to the end of the part. So if I go to, still on the wireframe tab, this icon over here, which is modify length. I'll click modify length. I'm going to choose lengthen, and the distance is going to be 0.51 or 510 thousandths. And I'll click on the line on the side of it that I want to extend. If I click on this line over here, it's going to extend it out to the right, which I don't want. So I want to make sure that I choose this line on the left-hand side of it somewhere. So right here is good. And green check. And so now we take that diameter all the way to the end of the part, and then we'll cut it off, flip it over, do op2. Okay, so back to our turning toolpaths, and we're going to choose a rough. So the partial chain is selected by default, so we'll just leave it there. We want to start here on the front of the part on the chamfer, and then we want to finish at the end of the part back here. Remember, we don't need to click every piece of geometry on the way, just the first piece and the last piece. Just like that. Green check. We're going to be using the same tool. We'll use the same speed and feed. So 5,000 feed rate, 200 spindle speed, and 2,000 max with coolant on. For our rough parameters, we're going to do equal steps, a depth of cut of 25 thousandths. Stock to leave in X is going to be 5 thousandths, and in Z is going to be 2 thousandths for our finish cut. For stock recognition down here at the bottom, it's disabled by default, but we actually want to use stock for outer boundary. So hit the drop down and then select that option. Use stock for outer boundary. And that should be it. Green check. And we'll see. Get the toolpath show up. Our phantom stock here is automatically updated. I'm not sure if we mentioned it. We can turn that off actually. We can make it so it doesn't do that. In the toolpath parameters at the bottom there's a stock update. So if you uncheck that, regenerate, now you get the toolpaths, but the phantom stock is not going to update. Which if you wanted to program multiple operations in the same machine group, then you could do that. I'm going to go ahead and put it back, and we'll show you guys another way to be able to verify your stock for Op2. All right, so part's roughed out now. So now we're going to go ahead and finish. All right, so to finish the part, to finish it, we're going to choose the finish operation. And then rather than picking the geometry again, we'll just go ahead and choose the last selection button and then the green check. This time we're going to select our finish tool. It's listed as tool 2121. And it's actually tool number 2 in the machine. Alright, and then we will maybe slow down the feed rate just a little bit, give us a nice finish. We'll say 3 thousandths on the feed rate, 200 on the spindle speed, and max again 2000. And our finish parameters. Everything looks good. So green check, and there we go. Now we just need to part it off. So we have to click the drop down over here and choose cutoff. Select cutoff boundary point. You're going to want to choose right about here. Find our tool. It's tool 4444. It's actually tool number 12 in the machine. So we'll change that tool number, offset, and station number to 12. And for our feed rate, we'll go 1.5 thousandths. For our spindle speed, we will leave it at 200 with a max spindle speed of 500. Coolant's on. We change it to 500 this time, that way the part doesn't go flying when we part it off. Alright, and then for our back face stock, we're going to add 10 thousandths. That'll give us 10 thousandths to face off next time. Green check. Since the phantom stock disappears, let's go ahead and just back plot it just to see, make sure the tool's in the right spot. There we go. Looks good. Just leaving us a little bit of material there. I'm going to go ahead and save now. Go ahead and save this one in our class folder this time. Save. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and verify. Select all the operations. Make sure they have a green check mark. And then we're going to choose Verify Selected Operations. And as with the lathe, when it cuts it off at the end, it's going to disappear. So under stop conditions, I'm going to choose Tool Change. So you want a check mark next to where it says Tool Change under stop conditions. And then I'm going to hit play. Speed it up a little bit. Alright, so there's my roughing. And then the finishing. And then the part off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow this down really slow so we can stop it before it disappears. Just like that. You notice you get a little disc on the end there. That's because when we extended our geometry, we only went to the end of the part instead of a little bit past it. So that's no problem. We can go back and fix that. So we'll X out of the simulation box window. And we're going to go back into the roughing toolpath under parameters, under rough parameters, and under lead in, lead out, or I guess we could just do it in under exit amount. I'll just put in 0.125 and green check that. And then on the finish, I want to do the same thing. Of course, I don't have that option like I do in the roughing, so I do need to go in the lead in, lead out parameters. So for my lead out, I'm going to extend 5.125. Green check, and then regenerate all dirty operations. I drag the arrow up so that it doesn't show the cutoff. Now I can see in my phantom stock here that my cut does in fact extend past the part now. So I won't get that little disc on verify. Alright, so let's do that one more time. Highlight all the operations. Verify. Speed it back up. Stop condition will still be there because I haven't changed it. Play. Roughing. Finishing. Slow it down for the part off. Play, pause. And nice and clean. Alright, finish it off. And it disappears. Alright. So that looks good. Go ahead and save it. Okay, so for the last thing, I'm going to show you guys how we can create some stock for the second operation that will accurately represent what we machined in the first operation. So one way we can do that is by using the stock model option. So if I click on stock model, first thing I need to do is give it a name. Stock model is under the turning toolpaths tab, in case you were on a different tab. So I need to give this stock model a name. Now it gets kind of weird because it's called stock model. We also have stock that we set up in the machine group parameters. So try to keep those things separate. They're not the same thing. A stock model takes the actual stock and then applies the toolpaths to it and shows you the machined stock as another entity on the screen. So we're going to call this stock model step holder op1. And so the initial stock shape is going to be our initial stock setup. So down here there's a stock setup button. So you'll click that and it's going to do that. Then the next thing is source operations. So we choose the 4 operations that we just created, 4 toolpaths, sorry. And then stock compare. So we activate that, and then we need to select our solid model. So hit the mouse pointer, select the solid model, end selection, and then green check. So now it's almost like you have that 3D verified thing on the screen here. So that's actually going to be a problem. So we're going to, this little thing here will be a problem later on, so we need to get rid of that. So that's in our cutoff. So in our cutoff parameters, we want to, for our X tangent point, I'm going to say minus 0.03. Green check, regenerate. Okay, now it's gone. Now it's gone. Save. Alright, so the stock model can be shown and hidden just like any other toolpath. Just like that. And it's can be nice to have on there for complicated parts and stuff where you kind of want to see what you still have left to machine. For this though, we're going to use it as stock for our second operation. So in order to do that, we need to go back up here to the stock model and click the drop down menu and then export as STL. So export as STL. And then I'm going to put it in a place that I'll remember. I'm just going to go ahead and put it back in the same folder where the part's located. And again, step holder op1, save, and then we'll use that later on in the next video. That's it for this one though. See you on the next one.